WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, Monrovia, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon and welcome to NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. First, the headlines. Sierra Leone's Court of Appeal orders the arrest of opposition leader Ernest Bai Koroma days into investigation for failed coup attempt. A Dakar court to decide the ruling on opposition's leader Sonko's inclusion on the electoral register on December 14 after Tuesday's postponement. President Wadr refutes claims of requesting ECOMOG's extended stay in the Gambia.
It was not even a request from our government, but looking at the circumstances around the sub-region, I think they deem it fit that the mission should continue, and knowing very well that they have a representative here.
President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria unveils the Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative aimed at achieving universal health coverage by 2030. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with NewsLink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. But we'll begin here in Senegal, where the Dakar court will tomorrow, Thursday, December 14, decide on the eligibility status of opposition politician Ousmane Sonko. The verdict, earlier expected on Tuesday, will determine Sonko's reinstatement on the electoral register after his name was struck out by the electoral umpire months ago following the government's directive. Incarcerated since July for insurrection and acts constituting national security threats, Sonko's chances of participating in the February 2024 presidential election remain slim. Efforts by his supporters and the now dissolved political party PASTEF to fulfill all electoral requirements ahead of the poll have been rejected, including an attempt to deposit 45,000 euros with the consignment office. The court's decision on Thursday holds the key to Ousmane Sonko's candidacy in the 2024 presidential race, an aspiration he accuses the ruling government of truncating after it weaponized the judiciary against him. In Sierra Leone, the Court of Appeal has ordered the arrest of former President Ernest Bai Koroma for alleged corruption linked to the sale of government shares in a mining company more than a decade ago. The case against the opposition leader, who was summoned last Thursday for questioning in connection with the November 26 alleged failed coup, is on the far end of the insurrection 2 weeks. Imo Edit has more.
Tuesday's development indicting the opposition leader for alleged corrupt practices followed days of interrogation by the Criminal Investigation Department headquartered in Freetown. The outcome of the investigation, which had initially prompted his summoning last Thursday, remains undisclosed. In a statement, the Court of Appeal said the leader of the All People's Congress Party was indicted for a shady deal involving a 2012 sale of government shares in a local mining company, Seria Rotal Limited. Kamara was at the time Minister of Finance. The court then ordered his immediate arrest and be handed over to the Anti-Corruption Commission for questioning. Until now, the presidential run-up in the June 24 elections is facing a similar accusation against him that surfaced in 2021 and dates back to his time as Sierra Leone's head of foreign diplomacy. He has denied wrongdoing. Reacting to the latest court order, his legal team, led by Andy Macaulay, appealed against the commission's accusations, citing lack of evidence, a claim the judges dismissed. The magistrate argued that there was no documentation on the said and that the former government was not aware of it. The court says Kamara has 2 weeks to refund the current government around $727,000 or provide evidence of the contrary. President Julius Maada set up a commission of inquiry after he was first elected in 2018 to investigate alleged state corruption under the previous administration. In the meantime, sources say a new debate has set in the Sierra Leonean media and civil space with concerns around a political witch hunt, an act of sabotage or suppression of opposition groups.
Imo added with that report. Now stay with us in the second half of the news as the National Publicity Secretary of the Sierra Leone Opposition Party APC joins us. Elsewhere, in northern Benin, an improvised explosive device IED explosion resulted in the death of 2 soldiers. Local sources report that the troops killed were occupants of a military vehicle that hit an IED planted by unidentified armed men in Karimama, a commune situated along the country's shared border with Niger. The Beninese government is yet to comment on the latest attack. Ogebirika reports.
The sources contacted gave no details of the identity of the individuals who planted the explosive device. Since December 2021, localities in Benin, bordering Niger and Burkina Faso have been the target of attacks by as yet unidentified gunmen. Several soldiers and civilians have died in these attacks. Last May, a deadly attack targeted Keru, also in northern Benin, where 10 people were killed. Last September, the Institute for Security Studies, ISS, published a report stating that the armed men who often infiltrate the north of the country are fighters from the Islamic State in the Sahel, the Islamic State in West Africa, and the Support Group for Islam and Muslims. According to the Beninese army, 3,000 troops are currently deployed at strategic points often used by armed terrorist groups. A few weeks ago, the military command indicated that road and air resources were being mobilized to prevent any terrorist infiltration.
Ogebirika filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. NewsLink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. An international humanitarian organization is calling on the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to expedite the process of easing the sanctions imposed on Niger. The Norwegian Refugee Council, NRC, appeals for humanitarian exemption in Niamey, stressing the dire situation of vulnerable populations, including children, women, refugees, and displaced persons are faced with. The NGO believes the opening of borders with the Sahelian states will allow for the free movement of food items, medicines, and other humanitarian aid to people already hit by insecurity and the impact of climate change. Speaking to WADR on this appeal is Mohamed Sheikwi, NRC's representative in Niger.
You already mentioned food security. Of course, food is very important. Another thing is very important is the goods that are necessary to fight malnutrition of children. We expect that 40,000 children that are facing acute malnutrition at moderate level will be going into very severe malnutrition. So also the inputs necessary to fight malnutrition are also very important. Also, medicines, vaccines are very important. You know that currently there is an epidemic of diphtheria, and if the health sector don't have enough vaccines and medicines to fight this epidemic, it will be also something which would be very concerning.
In the sense that, of course, the number of the malnourished children, which for now stands at almost 40,000, could be more, and many of them may die, right, if nothing is done urgently? Unfortunately,
the answer is yes. And we hope that we will not go to this end. And it is why it is very important for ECOWAS to give this humanitarian exemption to their sanctions.
Away from Niger, the Gambia's President Adama Barrow has attributed the extension of the ECOWAS troops in the Gambia to the recent coups in the sub-region. This comes after the regional bloc extended the mandate of the regional troops under ECOMOG by another 12 months. Our Banjul correspondent Sankule Janko reports.
In a decisive move following an extraordinary meeting of ECO's heads of state, it was announced that the mandate of the regional troops in the Gambia would be extended. The pronouncement came after assessments of the political stability and security challenges in the country, essentially as the Gambia continues to work on its security sector reform process, according to President Adama Barrow. Barrow denied suggestions and debunked speculations that his government had requested for ECOMOG extended staying.
It was not even a request from our government, but looking at the circumstances around the sub-region, I think they deem it fit that the mission should continue, and knowing very well that they have a representative here, and they did all their assessment and things that are happening around the sub-region, I think there was a consensus that the team in the Gambia should continue.
While the ECOMOG withdrawal will be gradual, ECOWAS is urging the Gambia to write a new constitution ahead of the 2026 presidential election and implement recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC. Again, President Barrow says the Gambia is on track.
So far, I think we are on track. We are setting up a team because we need to investigate these cases before we can go to court or otherwise. So we are trying to set up that team, and the Minister of Justice is leading that. And also we have organizations that are partnering with us to make sure that we have consensus on the constitution, so that we can go to referendum.
ECOWAS has been very pivotal to the Gambia's transition from dictatorship to democracy. In 2016, when the former president Yahya Jammeh was forced out of office after his 2016 election defeat. The sub-regional institution committed to fostering peace and stability in the region based its extension of the troops' mandate to further consolidate the democratic process and prevent any potential threats to the peace achieved through previous interventions in the country. For NEWSLINK West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankole Janko reporting from Banjul.
And in Ghana, Amnesty International has threatened legal actions against the parliament if it passes the Promotion of Proper Human Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021, popularly known as Anti-Gay Bill. The bill is currently under consideration in Parliament awaiting third reading. However, Amnesty International maintains the bill is inimical to human rights and must not be allowed to pass. From Accra, WADR's Nadiri Titi reports.
The Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, spearheaded by 8 MPs, aims to criminalize the promotion, advocacy and funding associated with homosexuality in Ghana. The bill proposes a prison term of between 3 and 5 years for those found guilty. Chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Kwame Enyimedu Entry, suggested a maximum jail term of up to 3 years without specifying a minimum sentence. He argued against leaving sentencing solely at the discretion of judges.
If we leave it to the discretion of the judge, they are also members of the society, they are learned and depending on the circumstances. That's why I am comfortable if we give the upper limit without saying that the person must be imprisoned as the minimum requirement.
On the other hand, Sam George, one of the bill's sponsors, emphasized the need to define penalty units to determine appropriate sanctions. The Speaker intervened, referring to existing laws on the penalty unit equivalences.
But I agree with the position of the Majority Leader that in that case, we should then get an advice on what the minimum penalty of 750 units is concurrent with. Is it 3 months or 6 months? So that we have a lower limit also for custodial sentence. A minimum of...
We don't need it because there's already a law on that.
Meanwhile, Amnesty International has served notice to legally challenge the bill if passed, citing its violation of human rights. Genevieve Patenting is country director for Amnesty International.
I've always said that Amnesty International completely rejects this bill. It does not exist. So we should not even be considering it. It is against our constitution, our Ghanaian 1992 Ghanaian constitution. So all these things we have to consider it when we place private members' bills in Parliament. So Amnesty will continue our work, and should the bill pass, we will take it to court as we are allowed to.
For West Africa Democracy Radio, Nadiri Titi, Accra.
And just before the recap, Liberian Senator pro tempore Albert Chi and the Mayor of Monrovia, Jefferson Koje, have denied claims of engaging in public corruption as announced by the United States. The two men were designated by Washington for engaging in widespread public corruption. You are listening to NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Sierra Leone's Court of Appeal orders the arrest of opposition leader Ernest Bai Koroma days into investigation for alleged failed coup. A Dakar court to decide on Ousmane Sonko's inclusion on the electoral register on December 14 after Tuesday's postponement. President Adama Barrow refutes claims of requesting ECOMIC's extended stay in the Gambia. Ahead in the news, President Tinubu of Nigeria unveils the Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative aimed at achieving universal health coverage by 2030. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports update. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. NewsLink continues.
As a reminder, we are live on wadr.org. The Nigerian government has unveiled the Nigeria Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative as part of efforts aimed at achieving universal health coverage by 2030. President Bola Tinubu, during the launch, which had in attendance multilateral partners, including the World Bank and the World Health Organization (WHO), said his administration is determined to deliver equitable and optimal health outcomes to all Nigerians before the set date. From Abuja, Usman Umar completes the story.
The Nigeria Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative is an improvement upon the existing Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. The Basic Healthcare Provision Fund was established under Section 11 of the National Health Act as a catalytic funding to improve access to primary health care to particularly the poor. In a remark before unveiling the new initiative, President Tinubu said the initiative is part of efforts to deliver on his promise of affordable health care to all.
My administration will continue to work with all of you in equipping, retraining of frontline healthcare workers. We are currently revitalizing the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund to better provide access to essential healthcare services under a full implemented National Healthcare Act.
Speaking via a video message earlier, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, commended Nigerian government for the bold initiative.
Nigeria has many achievements of which to be proud: interrupting transmission of wild polio virus, managing COVID-19, improving immunization coverage, expanding health insurance, reducing the burden of HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis, and responding to multiple disease outbreaks. The Health Renewal Compact that we are signing today is a powerful commitment to build on those achievements. That's especially important as at the current growth rate of 2.5%, the population of Nigeria is predicted to double by 2050.
There were goodwill messages from development partners, including the World Bank, Dangote Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, amongst others. At 4.8% annual budgetary allocation for health in the 2024 national proposed budget, Nigeria still ranks among the poorest in healthcare funding in the world. For NewsLink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
All right, let's join our Banjo correspondent Sankule Janko for a brief review of major and banner headlines from the Gambian national dailies.
Hello there and welcome to this edition of the paper review. Let's begin today's paper review with the Standard newspaper. And the Standard newspaper's lead story today reads, Economic Mission extended by 1 year, of course. The mandate of the ECOWAS troops should have ended this month, but following the extraordinary meeting of ECOWAS heads of state, it has been decided that the ECOWAS troops would stay a little longer, and that is after their mandate has been extended to 12 more months. AG says search for full details of Jammeh's sole assets ongoing. Kasakuda village demand reinstatement of Al-Kalo. That's another story on the Standard newspaper, and this one reads, Commissioner says Usainu Bojang confessed killing his officers. Now, let's move on to the Fourier newspaper, and the lead story on the Fourier newspaper has to do with the budget of the Gambia, and it reads, National Assembly approves $29 billion expenditure for 2024. ECOWAS authority of this Gambia government to expedite adoption of new constitution with the photo of Dr. Omar Touré, the president of ECOWAS Commission. The Gambia disturbed by debt distress. That's according to Woolly East National Assembly member Swaibu Touré.
Still with the foreign newspaper, this one reads, Politician admits participating in deal susceptible to corruption. Police commissioner says Usaini Bojang confessed to killing 2 policemen. Government signs 4 performance contracts to enhance accountability in SOEs. Now, let's move on to the Point newspaper. The Point newspaper's lead story today reads, New bill seeks to give voting rights to nominated councillors. At the moment, nominated councillors do not have the right to vote. They only participate in sessions, but this new bill, according to reports, seeks to give voting rights to nominated councillors. Former Assembly Speaker speaks on need to address discrimination in justice. That is Mariam Jack Denton, the former Speaker of the National Assembly of the Gambia. 2 witnesses confirm alleged PIU shooter were kaftan during incident. Alleged PIU shooter confirmed shooting officers, discloses Commissioner Shaw. Ministry of Trade enlightens public on employment policy. National Human Rights concludes vital training for security officers. And finally, stakeholders discuss ways to fight corruption in the Gambia. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies. And it's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Sankule Janko.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest segment this afternoon takes us back to Sierra Leone for unfolding development involving the country's former president, Ernest Bai Koroma. Summoned last week Thursday to answer questions regarding the November failed coup, the opposition leader now faces a separate accusation which relates to corruption during his time as a minister. His party, the All People's Congress APC, whose chairperson, Dr. Samura Kamara, has also been ordered to surrender to the Anti-Corruption Commission, says it is closely monitoring the situation. Joining us from Freetown is APC's National Publicity Secretary, Sidi Yaya Tunis.
Well, thank you very much. Several things have happened over the past 1 or 2 weeks with regard to some members of our party, including the former president. He was called by the Sierra Leone police to help with investigation into the failed coup d'etat on the 26th of November 2023. And then halfway into the, taking statements from him, the Appeals Court of Sierra Leone, wherein his lawyers appealed corruption charges with regards to commissions of inquiry, delivered a judgment rejecting his appeal and ordered him to pay a certain amount of money within a week from the day of that judgment. Just yesterday, the Sierra Leone police now officially informed the country that the former president is now a suspect in the failed coup d'etat and that he has been placed under restricted confinement, if I can put it that way, within the premises of the Godrich residence of the former president, wherein he's now been restricted in terms of movement, in terms of number of visitors, whether family members or party members.
And so what is the party's position on this development overall?
As a party, we are watching all of these developments keenly. We totally and unequivocally condemned the attempted coup on the democratically elected government. We do not support it. And we also have asked the government to ensure that those who have been alleged to be suspects are given fair, inclusive, transparent trial so that at the end of the day they will have justice. We are also watching keenly those of our members, including the former president, that have been arrested and detained. We want to ensure that they have access to the lawyers. They have access to doctors when needed, and they are also given the opportunity for fair trial and justice.
We hear from sources that there is a widespread concern that this is possibly an act of suppression.
All of these events are troubling, for our party, of course, because we had just concluded a dialogue wherein an 8-point agreement was signed. And one point in that agreement was that all of these cases that we refer to as politically motivated cases should be looked into, and dropped where possible. But then now we are halfway into the implementation of the agreement, and we are seeing the mad rush by the different courts of Sierra Leone giving judgments with regard to some of these cases and making orders for arrest of leaders of our party and even asking them to pay huge amounts of money. So that leaves many of us asking questions, so where is the agreement? What was the essence of going into the dialogue in the first place?
Exactly. And one of them also is the fact that many people fear that the ruling SLPP is in no way going to give in to these demands eventually. So all these are orchestrated plots to get that agreement invalidated or revoked.
Well, we hope not, because, different institutions are very keen on making sure that the agreements are implemented.
But how many of these institutions have spoken? Have they reacted in a way of statement or direct intervention to see that this is handled carefully?
In the just concluded ECOWAS summit, there were emphasis on the implementation of the agreement. That was very clear in the statement from ECOWAS, even where they rendered support to the government with regards to the failed coup, but they were also very emphatic on the implementation of the agreement that emanated from the dialogue between the government and the opposition.
That was Sidi Yaya Tunis, the National Publicity Secretary of Sierra Leone's opposition All People's Congress, APC. In the world of sports, the agent of the Wadr International, Eric Bailey, says the defenders' rights are being violated. This comes after the Ivorian defender was removed from the first team duties by his Turkish club Besiktas. Bailey, who joined Besiktas from Manchester United in September, is among 5 players who were dropped from the first team squad. The club says the players were dropped for what it described as poor performance and incompatibilities within the team. Bailey's agent, Rafaela Pimenta, was quoted as saying, "We are shocked and it looked to us by surprise. We are preparing our reaction since we know Eric has done nothing wrong. The players' rights are being violated and we will make sure to protect him." That's the very much we can give you from the sports world. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of NewsLink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Many thanks for being a part of this broadcast, and a big thanks to the technical team, Mustafa Sek and Maudo Juf, for their support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's gender program 50-50 with Nadiri Tete. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to NewsLink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0, and Veritas Radio 102.